trust is not a seasonal strategy. It's not something you can do for Q2 and then move on. It's not entirely within our control. It's not something you can throw money at. It doesn't matter how big of a brand you are or whether you're little like us. It has to be earned steadily and over a long time. I was raised by a kindergarten teacher, and it's going to filter through what work I'm doing and what I show you today. But I was also in marketing for 13 years. And the thing I struggled most with it are the ethical considerations that were not made during that time. And I wasn't an owner, I was an employee of someone, so I was mostly following a lot of instructions that didn't sit well with me. So it's so interesting to me that after I've pivoted into something entirely different, that it's this type of conversation that would put me in a room full of marketers again. When I became a mom, I started really looking into a lot of which ways I can support my child as he's growing. And I came across some facts and some research that really triggered me to contribute my voice to this space. If you're a parent here, did you know that 90% of brain development happens by the age of 5? Yeah. And during this time, 3 and below, they have like 1 million neural connections a second, which is more than any other time in your life. And the thing that impacts this brain development more than anything, more than toys, the books they read, whatever their education system or whatever, is responsive relationships with the adults they come across. So that instinct you have to wave back at a child who's been waving at you, that's brain building work that you're doing. So it goes beyond the parents. So that's why we are saying adults and not just parents alone. So it's really important that they feel safe and cared for with any adult they come across. So because of all of this, I was driven to set a goal to educate and equip the village, because we already exist in a village. If you've ever heard the saying that it takes a village to raise a child, then you know that for us, community isn't really a choice. It's not like part of the strategy. It's the bare minimum of what we can do. It's the backbone of who we are. Otherwise, we are not achieving the goals that we've set. So we look to educate and equip the village. We provide opportunities to strengthen bonds, read, we play a lot, we create a lot of experiences for families, and promote community cohesion. So whatever we do has the community at the center of it. So we have children's programs and caregiver programs as well. So let me tell you a little story that might help you understand who we are and what we can achieve. So it's a story of our chairman. He's been with us since the very beginning. He's a visionary, he's a very strong leader, and he's been a catalyst for a lot of the growth that we have achieved. He's actually also an expert in the field of play, which is an area that we are focused in. This is our chairman at work. This is with his plant that he named Planty. It's a tree that's flourishing right now. But anyway, so he earned that name from our community because he's like at every single one of our events. He's been with us for a really long time, and it's very hard to run into him and not completely take to him. So after a few of those instances, they immediately dubbed him the chairman of our board, and that's just stuck. So now we all call him chairman. So we ran into him first during our first bookish play date. This was in November 2022. So our bookish play date is a gathering that incorporates play to like supercharge curiosity and a love for reading. And the whole goal is to provide access to kids to books that we've specially curated, that are diverse, that put adequate representation front and center. So this was our first one. We had 50 people in attendance, including him. It was a really small space. We had 2 dedicated volunteers, one of whom is now a permanent member of our team. Fast forward, this is our 5th bookish play date. The chairman is too. You can see him there. He does not stop for registration. We had 200 people in 30 minutes. We were at capacity. We had shut down the forms. It was a bigger space. We had 20 plus volunteers. Everything from the deco to the minders to every single space was run by a volunteer from the community or someone who provided a service that they do anyway. We had a dedicated space for Kenyan authors, which was really big for us, Kenyan and African authors. It was one of the goals that we wanted to achieve, and we've been working with them for a really long time in between these events. But what was really special about this day is that it was the launch of our community Storytime podcast, which we are very proud of. So our Storytime podcast features diverse African stories written by African or Kenyan authors, voiced by moms, dads, aunties, uncles, and other contributors from the community. So it's like reading to your kids, but now you're reading to many, many other kids. It's very well produced by Verge, thank you. And we are now 27 stories in, so I would encourage you to check it out if you have kids. And now, a month later, you can see the chairman, he's exhausted from all the work he's been doing, and we always make sure there's a place for him to take a good nap. During this month, we had one of the bigger corporate engagements that we had up until that point. It was several locations and with a team of people who were previously volunteers and now were paid suppliers. So it was a really big step forward. So this company's mission was to nurture staff and support working parents, and it aligned with our mission to connect families in meaningful ways. So for the first time ever, they factored in developmentally appropriate sections for kids under 6 at their fun day, with reading, STEM activities, quiet rooms, no screens, and play that goes beyond the bouncy castle. Kidogo kidogo, we finally opened our community center in partnership with Kilimani Children's Clinic. This actually January this year, so we are about 4 months old. And this was a really big goal for us. This is a dream that we've had since Play Academy started, so it was super exciting to finally be able to do it. It offers daily caregiver and me play. It's now an inclusive space with access to healthcare and specialist support services from speech therapy, occupational therapy, pediatric services, dental within the same space. And we offer caregiver trainings, workshops, and meaningful social interactions. So the village that we've been building online is finally also coming offline as well in our own space. So we are really, really proud of that. So what does chairman have to do with these last 2 events? Well, other than attending them, they were entirely driven by the trust and buy-in from his parents, who not only mentioned us in all the right rooms, but had such a clear understanding of who we are, what we do, how we do it, that we joined the conversation at the point of signing contracts. To build a community, we had to position ourselves as an authority and earn the trust of parents, kids, educators, and other caregivers. And I feel this is really tough when you're talking to parents and when you're dealing with kids, because if you're not going to trust your child with Uncle Boy or whoever who is blood, before you're trusting them with a brand, before you're willing to drop them off at a place, before you're willing to play, a podcast that they could listen to and rest easy knowing there's not going to be any harmful content or there's not going to be an ad, it's something that takes quite some time. What we've discovered is that trust is not a seasonal strategy. It's not something you can do for Q2 and then move on. It's not entirely within our control. It's not something you can throw money at. It doesn't matter how big of a brand you are or whether you're little like us. It has to be earned steadily and over a long time. And mostly from the decisions we make, especially when it's hard. So to do that, it's really important that we know who we are. We need policies that factor in ethics. So for us, these are our core guiding principles that are factored in on all our projects and communication, and they filter into policies, be it marketing, privacy policies, hiring, and so on. So all the projects that we do will carry this at their core. All the messaging that we send out to parents will include this, so we are all on the same page. Having some level of standards does not impact the opportunity, not really. You can't claim to be a leader, you can't claim to be a contributor or a part of a community and expect them to trust you if you're going to expose them to everything. And we've seen the benefit of doing that. We've seen the gap between going from Cairo at 1 year and finally at almost 3 years when his parents back-to-back endorse us on several projects that have helped. That bridge is getting shorter and shorter as we get more of the parents becoming advocates for what Play Academy is and endorsers of what we do. So it's no longer taking a whole year of coming and interacting with our staff. It's taking a shorter time, and we are finally seeing the fruits of planting this really strong foundation of trust and showing and proving that we can figure it out within ourselves before we sell ourselves short. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it has given you a little bit of hope and not gloom and doom, that it is possible to build these communities and get through trust and not lose out or have to feel like you're sacrificing too much. Thank you.